Hi, good evening. Just to catch up, really. There's nothing particularly significant, although there is a little bit of news. So I think the last time I did a video, I was waiting for results of the bone marrow biopsy and waiting to have a PET scan. No appointment arrived for the PET scan, so my appointment with the consultant came along and I went to see him, and that's the first time that I've seen the actual consultant. The time before that I saw one of his other members of the medical team. So it was a 3.5 hour wait, which was it said 90 minutes on the board, but it was three and a bit hours. It was I was in there 3.5 hours altogether. Yeah, I got plenty of crocheting done then. So I saw him and was told that the bone marrow biopsy had shown that there was no cancer cells in my bone marrow, so that's really good news. And then he said, so the next thing is the PET scan, but I was told previously that I was going to have the bone marrow biopsy and the PET scan and then the appointment. So the appointment was a bit of a waste of 3.5 hours, really. They could have just told me that over the phone. And you know, I don't think things had sort of worked as quickly as initially was anticipated. He did make some excuse like, well, you can't have that done without the results of this, but I'm sure within a 6-7 week period that could have been achievable, but hey ho. So he did say that if he booked me in for a PET scan, and if the PET scan showed that the cancer wasn't in other parts of my body, that they would move forward with radiotherapy and there would be no need to go back to him for an appointment with that. However, if it showed that there was cancer in other parts of my body, then I would go back in to see him to discuss what happens with chemotherapy, although nobody's actually discussed with me what happens with radiotherapy. So, you know, Google has been my friend once again. And also I might add the group that I'm on as well, the Lymphoma group on Facebook. So there's loads and loads of different experiences of people on there. So I sort of dip into things that are relevant to me at the time. And there was a post the other night about radiotherapy, which I'll come on to speak about in a bit when we get to that point. So I went to Preston for the PET scan. I didn't actually realise that most of the treatments and the specific cancer things are done in Preston at the Rosemead Centre. So that's where I went for the PET scan. Very nice in there, very nice people, and of course there was a bit of a delay again, but so that was you know, a long time in there, because you get a cannula put in a vein. They inject into the cannula with a radioactive substance, and with this radioactive substance is a sugar mix. So the cancer cells use up sugar, so the sugar goes to where it's wanted, and that's the cancer cells. So of course they travel there with the radioactive material, so it's that radioactive material that shows up on the PET scan. So in order for the sugary substance to get to the cells that are active, the cancer cells, you have to lie perfectly still for about an hour. because if you do any activity, if you're looking at your phone or you're doing crocheting or reading a book, you're using muscles in your hands, and you're probably crossing your legs and doing all that, so the sugar goes to those cells because you're using those muscles. So you have to basically use no muscles and just lie perfectly still for about an hour to allow the radioactive material and the sugary mixture to go to the cells that are wanting it. You then you have to go to one particular toilet that's for radioactive people, because by then you're radioactive. You're not supposed to go near anybody else. And then you go into it's basically a CT scan machine, and it takes about 20-25 minutes. And it's nothing, it's not, you're not enclosed and incarcerated in it. It's just like going through a polo mint every now and again. And that's that done. Doesn't hurt you. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's just lying still for a length of time. So that was that, and then I was supposed to receive the results within 5 days. Unfortunately, I couldn't be told the results because the consultant was on annual leave, so I had to wait for him to come back off his holidays. He came back off his holidays, and my cancer nurse called me to tell me that it wasn't anywhere else, so that's good news again, and that I'm being sort of put forward now for radiotherapy. So I should hear from, again, Preston, the Rosemead Centre, in a couple of weeks, a week or two, she said. So I think the information about the radiotherapy will come from them. So I'm assuming that I have an initial appointment. I don't just go and have radiotherapy. I'm assuming that I go and have some kind of discussion. And like I say, Google is your friend, so and the group. I've found out a little bit more about radiotherapy, and I was quite shocked that it does have quite a lot of side effects that I wasn't anticipating, and the side effects are quite significant, because I was thinking that chemotherapy was the nasty choice, if you can call it a choice, but the side effects from radiotherapy can be quite debilitating, and some of the people in this group have said how debilitating they were made to feel with radiotherapy. So some of the common side effects are sickness, and you do get given an anti-sickness drug, so it's obviously a significant side effect. Depending on what area of the body the radiotherapy is targeted at, you can get things like diarrhea and hair loss in that particular part of the body, and fatigue, and some people describe that as quite extreme fatigue. So we'll see, we'll have to see, won't we? So the radiotherapy is done daily, so you travel to the hospital daily, Monday to Friday, and depending on how many sessions they decide that are needed for that particular area, you can have 5 or 15. A lot of people seem to be in sort of quantities of 15, so 15, 30 or 45, so that's quite a lot, really. And they make a mask that sort of, it seems like it's out of a mesh stuff. I'm presuming that I will have some kind of mask that goes over your face, and some of them look like they kind of attach to the bed, so I should imagine that feels a bit weird to keep you still and perhaps there's some kind of protective rationale behind that as well, because you don't want it's like microwave things zapping your body and killing cells off, so we don't want to kill any of the brain cells off, really, do we? So that's what it does basically. It kind of zaps that part of your body where the cancer cells are in order to kill the cancer cells, and obviously there are other cells around there as well, and it doesn't discriminate between cancer cells and normal cells, so it would kill normal cells as well. However, normal cells grow back more rapidly and healthily than cancer cells. Cancer cells are kind of like mutating things that don't sort of behave the same as normal cells, which is what makes them dangerous and not a good thing to have. So that's the radiotherapy. So I'm just waiting for the appointment for that. And I'm sort of quite pleased that it's not all happening in a terrible rush, because as some of you may know, I've only got 3 weeks left of work. It's Friday today, so I've got 3 weeks left after this week. So I was hoping it didn't disrupt that last 3 weeks, really, after 30 years. So that's going to be quite emotional as well. So yeah, it's pretty good news, really. And I imagine that, they talk about melting away the cancer, and I imagine once they've melted away the cancer in that place, to the degree that it can be melted away, I then go on watch and wait. So I presume they will have a look, maybe another PET scan or a CT scan to see how much of the cancer has been eradicated. And then, regular checkups to see if it's come back significantly, if it's gone somewhere else. Obviously the type of cancer that I have, which is follicular non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, isn't curable. That's what I've been told. It is slow growing, but it's not sort of beatable, if beat is the right word to use. So it will, even if it looks like it's not there, it will come back. Or it won't all disappear. There'll be some of it left, but the rate that it behaves isn't horrific, and a lot of people live a pretty normal sort of life for quite a long time, but just keep getting checked up, and I think that'll be what will happen with me. It can change, it can sort of change grade, and it can change the speed in which it grows, but that's the whole reason for keeping an eye on and monitoring, which is the watch and wait, as it's described as. So that is that for the time being. So I think the next time I will do a video will be to describe the radiotherapy process, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Have a nice weekend.